you a kid born before the internet? And as a kid, did you ever wonder why the wind blows? What makes a cake rise? How water comes out of a kitchen tap? Well, thankfully for us kids of yesteryear, Nickelodeon found the perfect person to answer those very questions and more. And coincidentally, that person is the topic of today's video. And with that, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Macabgorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten, Nickelodeon edition. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore lesson N105, Mr. Wizard's World, Behind the Beaker. Nickelodeon! Once again, we're going to visit the glorious 1980s and the greatest kids network, Nickelodeon, to showcase Mr. Wizard's World. But before we dive into the awesomeness that was Mr. Wizard's World, you have to know about the man himself. Born Donald Herbert Kemsky on July 10th, 1917 in Waconia, Minnesota, Don studied English and General Science at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, although he was very interested in drama and acting. However, his career was interrupted by the introduction of World War II when he was enlisted in the U.S. Army. Don then moved over to the Air Force and was a B-24 bomber pilot who flew over 56 combat missions as a member of the 767th Bomb Squadron, 461st Bomb Group of the 15th Air Force. In 1945, Don would be discharged as captain, earning the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters.
For those of you that have no idea what that means, the oak leaf cluster is a ribbon device to show previous decorations and awards.
After the war, Herbert decided to work in a radio station in Chicago. At this job, he acted in several kids shows like It's Your Life in 1949. This is when Don Herbert would begin to create the Mr. Wizard persona and the idea of a science and technology show. He presented this new idea to Chicago NBC station WNBQ, and they snapped up this new concept and brought Watch Mr. Wizard to life. Watch Mr. Wizard would air on NBC on March 3rd, 1951, with Donald Herbert as the main character in a weekly live half-hour show.
And just so you know, Don Herbert was the creator and host of both Watch Mr. Wizard and Mr. Wizard's World.
On this show, Don would play the role of a hobbyist, where a neighborhood kid would come visit him weekly.
Per episode, these kids would become Mr. Wizard's on-air assistants.
These assistants would be regular kids that wouldn't necessarily have a special interest in science or technology. However, Mr. Wizard would always have some cool experiment going on that always seemed super complicated, but in the end would turn out to be simple enough for parents and kids to replicate at home. Watch Mr. Wizard was so successful that by 1954 you could see it on over 14 television stations. Also, due to the success, Mr. Wizard science clubs began to form in North America, and by 1955 there were an estimated over 5,000 members, which grew rapidly to over 50,000 by 1965. This show would go on to receive a Peabody Award by 1953.
Now, for those of you who may not know, the Peabody Award is given in recognition of outstanding public service and achievement in electronic media.
Despite this, in 1965, NBC canceled Watch Mr. Wizard, claiming the show had run its course, as TV was starting to be seen as a relaxing pastime and not educational fun. This didn't stop Don, though, so in 1966, Don made 8 films in a series called Experiment, the Story of Scientific Search. In due time, NBC would bring back the show briefly, airing it from September 11th, 1971 to September 2nd, 1972 in Canada at the CJOH TV studios. During that time, Don produced 18 films that were made to be used in school classrooms. In fact, the National Science Foundation would help fund a series of 80-second shows called How About for local newscasts across the country. Although these newscasts did not use the Mr. Wizard name, everyone knew Don Herbert as Mr. Wizard, so in the end it really didn't matter. This would lead to Nickelodeon viewing a pilot, recognizing the potential of this type of show, and then they would agree to fund 26 half-hour episodes under the name Mr. Wizard's World. So, in 1983, Don developed Mr. Wizard's World to air 3 times a week on Nickelodeon. The series would ultimately have 78 episodes in total and would become Nickelodeon's number 3 rated show in 1983. The show was set up much the same way as Watch Mr. Wizard, as a kid would be helping Mr. Wizard conduct science experiments. Mr. Wizard's World was a show that was able to include more experiments with 8 to 10 experiments per episode. Some of the reasons for them being able to have more experiments is the kids in the 1980s were taught more about science, plus they were also using computers that were not available in the 1950s.
Don also didn't pander to gender stereotypes. He had just as many girls as boys as his assistants.
Some of the more popular Mr. Wizard's World experiment segments consisted of the following: Supermarket Science, How It Works, Know Your Body, Challenges, and Safari, just to name a few. Like its predecessor, Mr. Wizard used everyday objects for these experiments, such as glass bottles, matches, and aquariums. Don even included a segment called Ask Mr. Wizard, where he would answer questions submitted by viewers of all ages. Mr. Wizard's World would ultimately get canceled in 1990. However, reruns of the show would be seen on Nick at Night up until the year 1995. When asked about how he felt about the cancellation, Mr. Wizard said, "My time on this earth is getting shorter and shorter each day, but no matter how old I get, and even when I am dead, Mr. Wizard's World will never die." Because Don Herbert loved science so much, the cancellation did not stop him from educating people. Mr. Wizard was so popular that in 1982, Don was a guest on the very first episode of Late Night with David Letterman. Later on, another children's science show, Beakman's World, honored Don in 1983 with 2 penguin puppets called Don and Herb.
Now don't worry everybody, Beakman's World is on our list of topics to cover, so watch out for that.
Don then received the Robert Millikan Medal from the American Associates of Physics Teachers in 1991 due to his creative approach to teaching physics. In 1994, he developed a new series of 15-minute segments called Teacher to Teacher with Mr. Wizard.
This series was great as it featured elementary science teachers and their creative projects for their students.
Teacher to Teacher was also sponsored by the National Science Foundation and aired on Nickelodeon as well. In 1994, Don also received the James T. Grady James H. Stack Award for interpreting chemistry for the American Chemical Society.
For those not familiar with the American Chemical Society, it is a U.S.-specific society that supports scientific inquiry in chemistry.
The scientific community and kids all over the world would take a bad hit on June 12, 2007, when Don Herbert would unfortunately pass away from multiple melanoma, a form of cancer. Don is survived by his wife Norma, his 2 sons and a daughter from a previous marriage, 2 stepdaughters, and a stepson with Norma, and a total of 13 grandkids. Over his lifetime, Don Herbert was a respected member of the scientific community and helped a lot of kids develop a deeper sense of the world around them and find a love of science. Don inspired so many people that it would be impossible to list them all without this lesson being days long. However, some notable people he inspired are Bill Nye the Science Guy, Jamie Heineman, Adam Savage from Mythbusters, and Steve Spangler. Don Herbert will forever go down in history as proof that you can achieve your dreams if you work hard enough. He took his love of science and desire to educate kids to the magic and mystery of the world around them, and in doing so, changed the course of the science community forever. And unfortunately, on that note, we're going to go ahead and end the lesson here. My name is Bats, and this has been the Macabgorium Labs School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten, Nickelodeon edition, lesson N105, Mr. Wizard's World Inside the Beaker. Be Be sure to check back next time. You never know what we have in store. And if you had a good time, please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an upload. And let us know in the comments section below what kind of topics you'd like us to cover in future videos. We look forward to hearing from you. I've been your host, Bats, and as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and always keep it creepy. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you'd like to see more content from us, click this link right up here. If you'd like to check out one of our partner channels, you can click this link right over here. Either way, we hope you click subscribe and like and check us out for more content, and don't forget to turn on notifications.